So hi everyone, today we're going to review the book by Ernest Hemingway called The Sun Also Rises. It was his first novel. He wrote it in 1925 and I think it was published in 1926. But today I'm going to review the Barnes & Noble edition. I kind of like the way Barnes & Noble has these all made up, from 2011. So everybody knows that Hemingway is one of the quintessential American writers. But they don't really necessarily know why, so I'll just talk really briefly about him. So what he's known for is what's called unadorned writing, so he will avoid adjectives, and anything that he feels isn't absolutely necessary to the story, he leaves out. So it's a very sparse type of writing. He also omits information that he knows. So for example, in his dialogue he could be talking about a subject and he won't say what the subject is. You kind of have to know that as the reader, because he left some hint somewhere in the novel, so he just omits stuff. But this book has been called one of his masterpieces, and so what do I think about it? First off, without giving away any spoilers in case you're looking to read it, basically it's about this protagonist, Jake Barnes, who's an American newspaper writer in Paris after World War I, so he's a veteran of the First World War, and he and his group of dispossessed expatriates, British and American, that include a lady, Brett Ashley, are in Paris, and they're going to go to Spain to go fishing and to go watch a bullfight. That's the basic plot, okay? But it's a character-driven story, so that shouldn't blow any of the storyline for you guys. At the time it was written, it was a risque novel. Remember, it's 1926, and in this book you'll find things like casual sex, obsession, or what we would call stalking, laziness or listlessness, drinking, gambling, and of course the bullfighting. Back in the 20s, this would have been a pretty shocking novel. And my understanding is Hemingway's mother did not like the novel. She thought it was pretty vulgar. What did I think of the novel? The writing's pretty high level. Remember, this is his first novel, okay? And it's a good place to go as a writer to see things like how do you write dialogue, basically. If you want a good example as a writer, one of the techniques you can use for dialogue, Hemingway's a great place to go. If you want to see how to adjust and shorten your pacing by the length of your sentences, how you write rolling type of images, Hemingway's a great place to go. And the story itself, it probably hit a nerve in the late 1920s. These topics weren't always out in the open, like what do you do with PTSD. But I think that for a modern audience it probably loses a lot of its punch, because we tend to wear these types of issues on our sleeves. What this means is that there's no satisfactory conclusion to the novel. The characters don't change. They're pretty miserable at the start of the novel, and they're miserable at the end of the novel. And also the circumstances of their lives don't really change. So we're used to reading a story that goes somewhere and there's something definable at the end. You won't find this in The Sun Also Rises. So again, in the end, I do recommend this book, particularly if you're a writer, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned in it. How to do dialogue, how to minimize stuff, how to leave information out so that you don't clutter up the manuscript. And then the descriptions, how to use long run-on sentences, complex sentences to, instead of, doesn't slow down the storyline, but to smoothly increase tempo or to represent the scene itself, to reflect the scene itself. It's great. But if you're looking for a strong story that'll pull you through to some great conclusion, you probably should go somewhere else. Hemingway has a lot of other stuff he's written, and it's much better in terms of drawing the reader into the story. So, Sun Also Rises, recommend it for writers, not so much for your average reader who's just looking for a good story.
Someday
Rhythmic.
Again. I can't sleep at night. love me.